Yeah, it was going back to The Lightning Thief was a chance to refresh the story and do things that maybe I wished I had done the first time around. So it was really kind of an incredible opportunity.
Right.
Would you say?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 2005 was a long time ago, and that was when it was published. So it was something that Rick was working on before that, because it takes a while for a book to get published. So I think you finished it around 2003, right?
Yeah, so right at 20 years now. Yeah, I mean, everything was on the table to look at. What I loved about the process of making the show was that it gave me a great foundation for writing The Chalice of the Gods, which was the first Percy Jackson book, like proper, from his point of view, Percy Jackson book that I've written in 14 years. And so one thing informed the other. As I was rediscovering Percy's voice, we were rediscovering how to present that voice in a TV show. And Becky pointed out when she read The Chalice of the Gods that
Grover's voice is so strong in there, that Rick had learned how Arian, delivers his lines, and it was just amazing seeing the character come to life that way.
Yeah.
Staying on the mythology for a second, the idea that this is the latest iteration of the mythology in modern times. Looking back on it, how do you feel about being the latest people to add to that long list of just expansion creation?
I was talking with a group of mythology students at Harvard a couple of weeks ago. I was invited to talk to a class about that very question. And they asked me, do I feel ownership over the mythology? And I said, no, not ownership, just I'm one of the stewards. I'm one of the people trying to keep these myths alive, right, and to reinterpret them and introduce them to a new generation of young people. So it's not really about my version versus all the other versions. This is, in the best sense, public domain.
Right. It belongs to everybody.
It belongs to everybody. It really does. And so to be able to contribute to that tradition is a pretty huge honor.
And being a storyteller. I mean,
Yeah,
that's really what this is all about.
All the way back to Homer. We're talking about sitting around the fire and telling great stories. I have to say that when we ask our own sons who they would want as a godly parent, they say, why would I want a mom who's a goddess? I have Becky, which is totally true, totally fair. Best
Thank
mom
you.
right here. Sally Jackson, supreme.
Well, Rick and I have known each other since we were 16. So, there's things that maybe other people would be surprised about that Rick and I just, we're not surprised about.
I think my biggest revelation and delight was just how great it is to get Becky out into the world as an executive producer.
Instead of a behind-the-scenes kind of person.
Yeah, and to sort of let everybody appreciate just how integral you are to everything Percy Jackson, because none of this would have happened without you. And to see you kind of step into that role and be so good at it was really amazing to me.
Right. It takes a lot for people to understand that this is our story versus Rick's story.
Right.
So I have an opportunity to talk about that. So that's been nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously the reaction at Comic-Con was huge. It surprised you two being there. Can you just talk to that moment, being in the room and seeing it all kind of unfold?
Oh, when they brought up the lights in the room, it was absolutely amazing to see all the smiling faces and all the excitement.
Yeah, and I think it was incredible, and I think that's the first time that you and I had shared a public podium at an event like that too. And the reaction.
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking.
Well, sure. I mean, 4,000 people or whatever it was, but the reaction to your presence there was just really so heartwarming. I love that.
Yeah.
So one of the podcasts, their mission is to talk about Percival, the relationship. This
Ah.
is the greatest love story of all time. So they've asked if you would weigh in on that and just kind of talk about how you've seen that kind of change and what's the most important thing you felt that had to be between the cast and that dynamic?
Well, first season, I mean, we got two 12-year-olds, and as the readers know, there is really no Percabeth until the
Right.
5th book. So this
It's
is
a slow burn, right?
it's a slow burn. I will say that Percabeth, you're looking at them. I mean,
Right.
they are based on our personal relationship. As Becky said, we've been together since we were 16.
I laugh because, obviously the fans really, Percy is very important to them, and like, oh, why would Percy say certain things? And it's like, oh, yeah, that's Rick.
Guilty, right?
And,
Correct.
and wonderfully appropriate for Ariane to play Grover because he's been on stage in New York.
Yeah.
So to have him be able to do a little singing, I would love to see more of it. I'm going to pitch for that in season 2. I would love to see him be able to utilize his voice.
Yeah, we can do like Star Trek and make it a musical episode.
Yeah, wouldn't
right?
that be great?